Well, hello there. My name is, what is my name? My name is Zombie Lover 667, also known as Zombified Productions, also known as Feed, or originally known as Feed. And yeah, this is a story, a 14-year-old story about one of or the most important online legacy that I have uh in Minecraft, I guess. In general, actually. And yeah, if you're watching this video, you're probably part of this story because it's not really significant to anyone that wasn't part of it. So yeah, I'm currently in a world that me and my friends used to play on a few years ago. And this world was made in remembrance or in connection to the story I'm about to tell you. And yeah, this is the legacy or the story of CraftWorld Network. I have not said that name in a few years. Also known as Our Craft, also known by many other names. And yeah, let's get into it. How do I start a story that is 14 years old? Well, most of you probably joined this story like later on, a few years after. But in 2011, I made the decision to start playing Minecraft online. And I'm not going to go too much into the details because I could ramble on about the best gaming moment I've had in my life for a very long time. I could make a whole series about it. In fact, I actually built CraftWorld Network story around the story that happened in 2011, and only a select few Minecraft or CraftWorld Network players knew about the story. Very few people, and there's only literally like people that lived or played through it in the moment that learned what happened. But we're gonna skip over that initial 2011 story pretty much. I'm gonna speed up to when I met a person named Sandman. I'm eventually going to get Sandman to uh, be in one of these videos, I hope. But there's a lot of characters in this story, and Sand is pretty much the main character after me, or with me. We were partners throughout this whole ordeal, and yeah, a lot of people came and went throughout CraftWorld Network's history, and the only people that really stayed were me and Sant. And there is obviously a lot of people that still really care about CraftWorld Network, or they want it to come back, and they want it to have a rebirth. But I think that's just nostalgia. Uh, I think I know it is nostalgia for all of us that we want CraftWorld Network to come back, but in reality, in the current state of Minecraft, it's not really feasible. So the only way for me to bring CraftWorld Network back is through these videos I'm planning on making. And what I want to do is I want to invite people from that community and talk with me in these episodes. It's going to be kind of like a podcast style type of thing. So, what am I talking about? In 2011, one of the greatest servers, or it was like kind of like a roleplay survival server called Anarchy Craft, shut down. And it shut down because of me and Sandman. More because of Sandman, honestly. Not because of me, but I was part of it as well. I'm not going to deny not being a part of its downfall. And with that, there was a void. And that void of not having a place to go after that server shut down really made me, Sand, a few players that were with us at the time. To name a few, there was a guy called Dooz, which was the original partner of Sandman, by the way, and a few other people like Pro Boy, Fruity Fruits. There's so many names that are just forgot to time. You'll probably see them in the old videos comment section. Anyways, uh, these all of us we ended up deciding to make our own server. Despite the odds, despite the difficulty of that ordeal of making a Minecraft server in a landscape where there was not that many tools, it was very expensive, very hard to make, even back then. But we managed to make it work, and it was all thanks to Sand. Sand was the pioneer. He learned how to make or develop servers, and with the help of Dooz, Pro Boy, me, and a few other names, we ended up starting a server, and that initial server was called Hourcraft. So pretty much the original server, shut down in 2011, late 2011. A few months later, in 2012, Sand and I were messaging on Facebook, because back then we didn't really have that many platforms to talk on, and we had the idea of starting our own server, and that's where our craft came, and that's where we made this trailer that you're seeing in the background right now. This server that we had was ran on Sand's laptop. By the way, just for you guys to know, this was all built in survival. And it was very difficult to make, but I'm not the one that made it. It was one of my real world friends that's built this, because he was part of the community closer to the ends, and he really loved the story of CraftWorld Network. So he dedicated this platform, built it all in survival. It took a few months, gathered all of the different block types, and made a pixel perfect replica of the painting, the famous CraftWorld Network monument painting. And yeah, this is definitely one of the coolest things that came from CraftWorld Network. This thing being built in survival. So, let's after we made our crafts, We spent like around a month or two trying to run the server. It was extremely laggy. We had no vision whatsoever. We started off as a survival world and built it up to be a multi-game mode survival server. So it had like Hunger Games, it had PvP modes, it had so many weird things all in the same uh world. Then we started making some crazy stuff, like started making creative modes and all that. And Sand had a history with creative modes because that's the way he shut down or he ruined Anarchy Craft by using an exploit to take impossible 1337 enchanted swords to survival in our craft. So, yeah, pretty much that server failed. Flat, just flat failed. And we had like around 20 players or 25 players peak in that server, but it was so laggy, so terribly made because it was the first ever server we made. So we went back to the drawing board. That server was called Ourcraft, by the way. I still remember the IP. It was ourcraft.zapto.org. I'm probably gonna remember that IP for the rest of my life because I memorized it like my name. And this was in back in 2012. So 2 months after Ourcraft, or around 2 months after Ourcraft shut down, we started developing a better server, and we there was a whole story about the reason why it shut down and all that. But we started developing it on a laptop I had that was not my laptop. It was my sister's laptop, and Sand would connect to it remotely because it was the only laptop strong enough to host a server because it was somewhat modern at the time. And we hosted uh, the server on that laptop to just develop it. So we spent a few weeks developing, focusing solely on development, not inviting anyone yet. And I made a promise to Sand. I told him, Sand, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to buy myself a computer. And when I do, a desktop PC, not a shitty laptop, I'm going to run the new server on that PC. And that really made Sand excited because at that point we had no money. We had no way of hosting the server. We had no idea how to even host a server through a service provider because that wasn't a thing yet. So we waited until I got the money to buy myself a computer. And yeah, let's talk about that. So after we set up and ran CraftWorld Network on my computer, after multiple months of development, we had a hub, we had factions, we had prison, I believe, kit PvP, or sorry, we had kit PvP, then we had prison, and that was all my PC could really handle. It was 8 gigabytes of RAM. When I ran Minecraft to actually play on the server, it would lag the server. So I was encouraged to play on very low settings, very low render distance, just to make the server not be impacted by me playing while it was running. And pretty much what I did was when I was not available, I just had the PC on 24/7. I upgraded my internet. I made it like I upgraded it solely for the purpose of running CraftWorld Network on it. And that was the best we could do at the time. We had it running 24/7 with TeamViewer connections. enabled so that Sand could connect to my PC remotely anytime and fix something if it was not working. At a lot of points, like the power would go out in my house and or the internet would be restarted, and I had a dynamic IP, so it was a disaster. Sand had to Sand had to report uh CraftWorld Network's link or its IP to my new dynamic IP every time my internet would reset, which was happening like twice a week. And Sand just powered through that, and he was pretty much fully running it himself. I was helping him in a few things, like making kits, making building the maps, um, supporting him wherever I knew how. But I was still very more focused on the community side of CraftWorld Network, while Sand was focused on the development side. So Sand would develop CraftWorld Network, and he would depend on me to run the community and to uh, build the maps or help build the maps, get people to help me build the maps for get PvP, for faction spawn, for the hub. There's so many things that we were working on. At the time, we had at the like at the launch, we had only the original like group of players from Anarchy Craft that went on to our craft. We had them come back to CraftWorld Network, and we made them all mods. We made them all like admins and mods in the server, and we tasked them with inviting every single friend they had to CraftWorld Network through any means necessary. We wanted this server to be successful. And within the first month of us running it, because we were running it, we like fully started running CraftWorld Network and making it go online in 2013. When we started inviting players, we realized, hey, we need a trailer to, make it official, to put on all the vote sites, because Minecraft the servers, like, they have a whole vote for the server system to like climb up the leader ladder to end up being discovered by players through these vote websites. And there was a monopoly going on, honestly, with those vote websites, and it was very difficult to get yourself up there. But regardless, we managed to climb the ladder with hundreds of thousands of other servers online. But having 20 players back then put you instantly in the top 1,000 servers in Minecraft. So we had an advantage. And that advantage was that our server was cracked. I know cracked servers, they don't really have the best reputation. But back in the day, most people did not trust to buy a random game online. And Minecraft is still considered a little bit random. It wasn't that big yet. People also were very poor, not poor, like online poor, where most of the players were kids, obviously, and they didn't have the money to buy Minecraft. And I was one of them, honestly. I was one of the people that just didn't have the money to buy Minecraft. Obviously, a few months into CraftWorld Network, I ended up buying Minecraft because that was the right thing to do, and I wanted a skin. Back then, I was known as Feed the Beast. I'm not gonna debate if I had that name before or after the mod pack was made, but I've been using that name since 2011, and people knew me as Feed, or like they shortened my name to Feed. But when I ended up buying Minecraft, I changed my name to my channel name, which was Zombie Lover 667. Very complicated name. And there's a history to that name as well, but I'm not gonna go into that. I ended up me, Sand, and Pro Boy, Dues, a guy called Fruity Fruit, and someone called Maxis, which is this guy right here. We ended up running CraftWorld Network, and each person was like tasked with running a specific server, like making sure, like moderating in that server, making sure there's no cheaters. Hacking back then was only for the really, really smart people. So we had people that were finding day one exploits to fly around on the server, and we had to quickly eliminate them. We had people DDoSing the server. We had people cheating using cheat clients and all that, but they were very early in development back then. So it was a cat and mouse game from the start. But we managed to pull through. So there was a debate on who should run what server. I ended up being tasked with PvP, and to this day, it's my favorite game modes. Just straight up jumping into an arena with selected kits, fighting it out for fun. Just classic old PvP. And there was a war going on who should run factions, because factions is definitely Sans baby, but he pawned it off to Fruity Fruits and Pro Boy, which were both really like there was a lot of drama going on pretty much where they were fighting on who was the real leader of factions. Fruity Fruit ended up dropping out of CraftWorld Network. Even though Pro Boy and him were like friends somewhat. For other reasons, he was abusing power, doing a lot of shady stuff with players, and he had a few scandals. So we ended up letting him go. So that was a big hit to morale, and Pro Boy got a little mad about that and ended up leaving as well. But he, of course, ended up coming back later on, and he always had he was always allowed to be a mod in the server. Like we never took that away from him, because he was a true day oneer for CraftWorld Network. And yeah, I have no idea where these guys are today. I still see some of them around, but it's been a while. Anyways, we needed a creative server really badly, but my PC was maxed out at what the amount of servers it could run. So we went on to ask our players who could run creative modes, and Sand ended up finding Maxis, which had a really powerful PC, and he was able to run the creative game modes. Maxis was a legend because he made our server have, or he made our server end up being able to have four different game modes, and the amount of voodoo shit Sand had to do to make that work is just incredible. Because back then, bungee cord wasn't even a thing, so there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. Anyways, long story short, Maxis ended up becoming admin because he was a normal player at that point. He ended up becoming an admin because he let us run creative, and he ended up becoming one of the best admins in CraftWorld Network. And yeah, he went on to support us in that way. And within the second month, we hit 50 players online in the server. These were not consistent numbers, to say the least. Players would usually come on in the weekends. We would have around 10 to 20 active players on most of the time. In closer to the night time, there was no players. There was only like 5 or 6 players online. Half of them were AFK. But in the weekend or in like the nighttime, we had 20, 25 players on. In the weekend, it would go up to 40. And The server started. We opened our website. Sand told me, "Hey, we should open a website so that we can start making what's it called, donations for the server for us to be able to open CraftWorld Network or to upgrade CraftWorld Network to uh, a real server host instead of it being on my PC." So we did that, and we had a lot of people that really believed in the CraftWorld Network project, and they donated to the server, and in return, obviously, they got paid to win kits in kit PvP and factions and prison. They got paid to win stuff. I'm not gonna deny that. Back in the day, pay to win was not frowned upon like it was now, and it was the only way for servers to make money. So we ended up making pay to win kits, and it didn't really sit well with me because they were lifetime pay to win kits, and it would put the donators in an obvious advantage. And I told Sand, since then, I told him we should move to a monthly model, and we should provide a way where players can get similar kits for free in the server. Obviously, money talks, and that didn't really happen because we ended up continuing with that model for the next 3 years, which led to CraftWorld Network's downfall, pretty much. I'm not gonna jump up. I'm not gonna jump ahead, but long story short, uh, we started this model, and it gave us the funds to host Minecraft or host CraftWorld Network on a real uh, hosting platform. And we were paying at the time around $60 a month just to host all the 4 game modes, and they were running blazing fast. Those servers were amazing at the time for the based on what other servers had, you know? So that attracted a lot more people, and we started really pushing hard on inviting new players. We encouraged our fans to vote daily and to never miss votes by giving them rewards every time they voted. And we ended up giving ranks to free paid ranks to dedicated players. We ended up promoting a few players to moderators and admins, and a few of those players, well, none of them are in the lineup here, but a few of them in the start really pushed us forward. One of them was a guy called My Timmy, and some of you that played in CraftWorld Network, when you hear My Timmy, you're gonna cringe a little bit because he was 100% a cheater, 100% cheater in in kit PvP, but he's never been caught cheating, or he has been caught a few times. We told him to stop, but he was forgiven multiple times. And he was really good at development. He was really good at Minecraft. He understood the game so well, so we promoted him to admin. Or we started off with him being a moderator. He did really well. When he became an admin, he started becoming a piece of shit. And he started abusing his power. He started banning people. People were calling him a cheater, and he was saying, "No, I'm not a cheater." At the time, we had a rule where we allowed admins and mods to PvP. And what would happen is if someone would PvP my Timmy, and he was obviously cheating, and that person would get pissed off, go to the forums, report him, because we had forums back then, report him for cheating and saying this guy's a cheater, they have recorded evidence, all that stuff. We would review the recordings, we would tell him, hey, stop cheating. He would say, I wasn't cheating, you can't prove that. and he was just abusing power. He found ways to give himself a bypass where he would not be identified by the anti-cheat that he was cheating, because he made himself pretty much bypassed. Like he allowed himself from the anti-cheat to cheat, and we discovered that later on, and that's when my Timmy was officially banned. And that was around the time where we had this was way up ahead in 2015, where we had the tournaments.
Can you see it? The best is over. The monsters in my head are scared of love. Finding people, listen up. It's never too late to change your love. So don't let them steal your life. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side. You'll see all the raindrops falling me. It's a revolution. It's a revolution.
PvP tournament in KBVP. It was the biggest tournament we had, or the biggest event we had, and we had over 60 participants in that tournament, and the person that ended up winning, I believe, was my Timmy. And for me to try to fix morale, because the winner was promised in-game rewards and all that, we ended up giving the second place and third place winners paid ranks, because they were both unpaid ranks, or one of them was a paid rank, but they were like a low paid rank, so we upgraded them to one of the higher paid ranks. And yeah, it was I'm just glossing over a lot of stuff, because I actually want these players, if they contact me on Discord, to reach out and tell their own story and their own perspective of what happened. If they remember it. It was over 10 years ago, well over 10 years ago. So yeah, my Timmy ended up getting banned, and after that scandal, we really needed new developers and new leaders for CraftWorld Network. And I told Sand, I want you to get a protege, and I'm going to get a protege. Okay? And we're gonna build them up to be the new developers of CraftWorld Network. They're gonna take the flag and they're gonna lead us on to success. So Sand hired or promoted Prince to be his protege, and Prince ended up becoming a developer. I hired Steve. I really liked his forum application to become a moderator. Steve is German, I believe, and was speaking. He was like had his own group in factions, and he was really active in factions with that group. And I spied on him multiple times before he made his application to become a mod. And he was a chill dude, and he was legit. So his application really stood out to me, and I ended up hiring or getting Steve to become a developer in the server. They didn't become developers right away. What they did was they were moderators at the start. We were training them. We were slowly giving them more and more responsibilities until both of them got promoted. It was all stuff me and Sant knew they were going to eventually be promoted to becoming developers, but we wanted to see how they did first. So Prince ended up taking control of factions, of Kit PvP and Prison. Steve ended up becoming in control of factions and GTA. And this was the perfect matchup because we had someone that was a suspected cheater in PvP, running CraftWorld Network's KPVP division and prison, and we had one of the most dedicated legends that loved factions and GTA run that scene. So what was I saying? Pretty much end of the day, we had the perfect dream team to revive and fix CraftWorld Network situation because at that point in late 2015 or mid to late 2015, we were at the peak, but we felt trouble was coming. We felt there started to be a decline in interest in the game because we saw a lot of older players that were dedicated to the server stop playing. We made a lot of bad decisions. Like me and Sand, for instance, at one point in time, got in a fight, in an argument, and the fight was over something that was in my department, which was building the maps, and it was a kit PvP map that's players. It was like the foundation of CraftWorld Network. That PvP map. It was where Zombie Accepts 1v1 really took off. It was where so many memories were made for a lot of players, and it was all dispute over a hole in the ground. So there was a meteor hole in the ground, and it was kind of important to my story, and at the same time it was a challenge for players where if you fell in the hole you couldn't get out, and the only way to get out is to wait for a grace period for PvP to end and to teleport back to spawn. Okay, I thought it was a fun challenge, and I always love this concept where if you trick someone to going in there, or you fall in there, or you push someone into there, that you would fight them until one of you dies. And it was far away enough that if one player tried to target you, he couldn't reach there in time before the PvP timer would wear out. So he would have to have like 2 or 3 people trying to keep you in PvP logged to keep you really trapped there forever. So that whole Sand thought was stupid because he got a lot of complaints from players, and he plugged it up and made it into a lake. I got mad and I removed that and I put it back to its original state. Sand got mad again. We were fighting in the server in front of players. Sand said, F this. He got mad and deleted the whole world. This was a very bad judgment call from Sand because that world meant a lot to a lot of people, and we had no backup. I had one backup, but it was on an old hard drive that broke, so I couldn't retrieve the file from it unless I went to a data professional. And I still have that hard drive somewhere in my house. And one day maybe I'll be able to go to a data professional to repair the hard drive by giving it donor pieces and get that map again. But the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. Anyways, what we did after that was we had to make a new map, and we shut down KPVP for around a week. I made a new map, and it was a flop, obviously. And since then, because we had so much downtime for KPVP, we encouraged players to go to other modes, and they were playing, prison. People were like we made a whole challenge for prison where players would grind prison and get really high up there. We made a few updates to GTA. We tried to refresh factions, but we ended up doing is we reset the faction world at that time, and it was so stupid that we did because we thought a custom world would be a good idea, even though it made it very lifeless because it was a foreign looking world. And back then it was very repetitive, and it looked nice in like trailers, but actually playing in that world was just a horrible experience. And we didn't realize that until we already did it, and by then it was too late. So we pretty much killed factions, oversaturated prison. PvP was down, so there was only GTA left. That's when the GTA scene was really growing, and we were hitting like 40 to 50 players in the GTA scene active at one time. There was a big Turkish community, and German, and a few countries, like they would like clan together and they would dominate the server pretty much. And yeah, KPVP never recovered after that. Uh, we'd like to think that it did, but it never did. And the other game modes, through us resetting the game modes because they got a little bit ridiculous, and there's a lot of exploits and stuff, we ended up killing the passion for a lot of players. And people that had paid ranks and had like the best gear in the game were not motivated to play anymore because they reached the top and we added no new content, or we didn't add sufficient new content. And yeah, what ended up happening is that Sand had some real world problems he had to deal with for a couple of months, and I had to take full control of development. I was using I was getting the support of Steve and Prince to help me in development. They were like fully developing the server at this point, where they had access to the backend and everything. And we tried to keep the server alive, but it eventually, in end of 2016, I went 6 months straight of since all of 2016 of paying out of pocket to keep the server running. And one of the months, I was going to keep paying out of pocket, by the way, forever. But one of the months, I had a little bit of financial hardship in the real world, and the server was around $120 or $140 to run with the website and all that. And I couldn't come up with the money. I tried everything. I tried selling real world assets. I tried everything I could, but my family came first, and I had to make the hardest decision of my life, which was shutting CraftWorld Network down. And I replay this moment like 1,000 times in my head throughout the years of what I could have done differently to keep CraftWorld Network alive back then. Because if I kept it alive just a bit longer, Minecraft was going to make a comeback through PewDiePie. But I just couldn't. I just couldn't. I replayed it 1,000 times in my head. There was no way for me to get out of that financial situation, and I had to shut the server down. When I shut the server down, as devastating as that was, I just let it die. I didn't like choose a day to shut it down. I just let it die. Steve, there was a nice moment where in the end of the server, the last few moments before it was shut down, there was around 20 to 25 of the OG players all online at the same time with me, and we were like talking about the good old days and all that before the server was finally shut down. And yeah, that was sad, but it was a nice moment. Anyways, after the server shut down, we ended up I felt like there was a big void in my life because CraftWorld Network was my second job pretty much at that point. I wasn't making any money out of it, but it was such a big passion that I had for server development that I felt completely lost. And that's when Steve came up with a suggestion. He said he's going to fund a new server because CraftWorld Network legally could not be reopened at that point because there's some EULA updates and there was some very strict things related to our setup for the ranks and all that. And if we reopened CraftWorld Network, it would be a disaster. And Steve knew that. I knew that. Prince knew that. Everyone knew that. Even Sam knew that. So we decided to make a new server instead. And this server, we stayed in development for almost a year. 2017, almost all of 2017, we were developing a server called Thugspot. Mind you, the name is probably the stupidest and most cringe name out there. That was intentional. But Thugspot was Steve's baby. And he was the real Sandman of Thugspot. And we, throughout that year, I was putting in some days 8 to 12 hours days of just working nonstop on the server. I took a vacation at one point from my work, my yearly vacation, just to work on Thugspot to make it successful in development. And we worked really hard, but Steve worked the hardest. He was paying for it. He was funding it. I started helping him in the payments. Like, we had a deal where it was 1 month me, 1 month him, something like that, or I was paying for the website. There was a deal going on between me and him where it was we were trying to split the payments a little bit between each other, but he was paying for the majority of it, honestly. And I'm really thankful for him for that opportunity, because it was really refreshing having something to pour my passion into during those years. Thugspot was an amazing developed server, but Minecraft was dead, so dead in the water that it was irrecoverable at that point, because there were just better games, not better, like there was just other games out there, and there was no passion for Minecraft at that point. I think that was the lowest Minecraft player counts ever for Minecraft servers. And with a monopoly of Hypixel at the time, it was just unbearable. Okay, so we ended up just closing or shutting down Thugspot and replacing it with a new project, because Steve, I love this man. He's just such a legend. He paid around 8 to 10 months in advance for server hosting, and he had something happen in the real world, and he disappeared for like 7 months. Right after we made the decision to open CraftWorld Network 2.0. made that decision, we started developing CraftWorld Network 2.0 again, and we started trying to have some nostalgic feeling maps, like the old maps that we had. We started adding old systems into the game. We were going for targeting our older audience that really wanted to see CraftWorld Network come back, and we did it really well. We made a really well thought out attempt for CraftWorld Network 2.0. But the issue was the initial launch was a success. We had around 30, 35 players, around 40, join in the initial launch. Everyone was spamming, clicking the mouse to see who would join first when the whitelist ended, and we hyped it up. We had a whole trailer and everything, and teaser trailers, and the actual trailer in the end, and all that. And it was a beautiful launch, and it was everything I would wish for. But Minecraft was dead. All those players came back for the nostalgia, and when they saw that it was nostalgia, they ended up leaving. And yeah, what happens is that, like the real world, there's nothing in here. What happened is that CraftWorld Network 2.0 funding stopped, it ended, and we had to. Sorry, I'm just trying to not ruin this. We had to end up shutting it down because Steve disappeared for a little bit too long, and he never really came back since then. It's a mystery to this day what happened to that man, honestly. We had to shut down CraftWorld Network 2.0, and that was devastating again for me, because not only did I lose CraftWorld Network once, I lost it twice. After the failed attempt at Thugspot, a whole year of development of me learning new things, because I was developing it alongside Steve, and that was the first time I really got my hands dirty into the development. And then me working full time on developing CraftWorld Network 2.0 with Steve and Prince. We had to. Shutting it down was a major blow to my morale, and I took a break for around a year or two. And as a saying goes, sand got nostalgic. So we developed another server, and we said we're no way we're gonna open CraftWorld Network 3.0. We don't want to taint the name of CraftWorld Network. So we ended up making Coastcraft, and we all know how that went. Flop from the beginning. We had around 10 players join in the launch. We had a good chat. We stayed up all night talking with each other, with all the OG players, but it fell dead in the water from the first day. And yeah, that's how another server failed from me and Sand. And yeah, it became a familiar feeling after then, and I had so many more opportunities to open more avenues and more servers. But I decided to take the banner and let the new generation build or develop their own community. So a lot of people from CraftWorld Network ended up making their own servers and their own communities, and I saw some beautiful things throughout the past few years, and I joined a few of them anonymously, and I played on those servers every now and then. But kind of saw the same fate that happened to CraftWorld Network happen to them, and it was a little bit sad. So yeah, that's why I'm making this video. I want to talk about nostalgia a little bit with all the old amazing community we had back in CraftWorld Network. And if any of you would like to say your piece about what CraftWorld Network meant to you, or what the community in general meant to you, and how it impacted your life, then reach out to me on Discord. I'm gonna leave the link for the server, the CraftWorld Network Discord server, in the description below. If you're part of the community, feel free to join and DM me, and we should, get connected. And yeah, thanks for watching. This has been Feed Zombie Lover 667 or Zombified Productions, whatever you want to call me. Peace.